It started with a buzz. I was standing in line at the coffee shop on 8th Street, scrolling mindlessly through headlines when my phone vibrated with that distinctive tone I use for text messages. I almost didn't check it. But boredom got the better of me. The message was simple. No sender ID, no number. Just a blank name field and a line of text. Red cup. Barista spills it. 3:12 p.m. I blinked at it, confused. The time was 3:08. I glanced around, trying to spot anyone looking at their phone, maybe messing with me. Nobody stood out. There were only 4 people ahead of me, 2 behind. A mother with a toddler, an older man with headphones, a student with a laptop bag. Normal. By 3:11, I was staring at the barista, half expecting them to burst into flames or something. Nothing happened. She handed over a drink to a girl in a denim jacket, a red cup, who turned and took a few steps before bumping into the man with headphones. The drink slipped out of her hand, splashed down the front of his coat. The time on my lock screen read 3:12 exactly. I felt this chill pass through me, like stepping into a freezer. Lucky guess, I muttered. Coincidence. But even as I said it, something in me recoiled from the words. I saved the message anyway. Screenshot it. For what reason, I didn't know yet. Maybe to show someone. Maybe to convince myself it was real. I didn't get another message for 2 days. But when I did, everything changed. The second message came on a Thursday. I was at work, eating lunch at my desk, some dry chicken salad and a stale bagel. I hadn't thought much about the first message since the coffee shop incident. I'd chalked it up to coincidence, like I said. A weird, statistically possible fluke. But when my phone buzzed at 12:43 p.m., I stopped chewing. Again, no number. Just text. Ava drops the plate. Sharp edge. Blood. 1:07 p.m. Ava is my coworker. Sits across from me in the open plan office. Always brings her food on one of those kitschy ceramic plates she collects, the kind with floral patterns or little cartoon cats. I stared at the message. My gut twisted. I looked across the desk divider. Ava was eating spaghetti from a porcelain plate with tiny lemons painted on the rim. I told myself I wouldn't watch the clock. But I did. At 1:05 she stood up with her empty plate and headed for the break room. I followed, pretending to refill my water. My mouth had gone dry. I couldn't explain why I was so nervous. It was just a message. But I lingered in the hallway outside the kitchenette. I heard the crash before I saw it. Ava yelped, followed by a sharp intake of breath. I rushed in. The plate was in pieces on the floor, and she was holding her left hand, blood dripping from her thumb. A shard must have sliced her. She looked at me, pale. It just slipped. Out of nowhere. I asked if she was okay. Got her a paper towel. But my head was spinning. I didn't sleep much that night. I checked the message again. The wording. The time. The specificity. There was no denying it now. Someone had sent it before it happened. Someone who knew. I didn't get another message the next day. But I was watching my phone like a hawk, waiting for the buzz. By Saturday, I stopped hoping it was over. Saturday was my nephew Caleb's 7th birthday. My sister had invited me over for cake and chaos. I almost didn't go. I felt on edge, like walking through fog just waiting to trip on something I couldn't see. But I told myself I couldn't start letting a couple weird texts run my life. That was the beginning of the lie. I was halfway through wrapping Caleb's gift, a drone I probably spent too much money on, when the phone buzzed. 1:41 p.m. My breath hitched. The message read, Toy drone. Dead bird. Screams. 2:03 p.m. I stared at it. The gift sat next to me, still in its box. My hands were shaking. I double-checked the time. I could just not give him the drone. But what was I supposed to tell my sister? That some mystery texter sent me a spooky message and I was afraid of a child's toy. I didn't tell her anything. I wrapped the gift. I went. The party was already in full swing when I got there. Kids screaming, sugar high, tearing around the backyard in superhero costumes. I gave Caleb the present, and he tore it open like a wolf on a carcass. Immediately begged to try it. I hesitated. Then nodded. Just keep it low, okay? At 2:02 p.m., he launched it. The drone whirred up into the air. He steered it like a pro. He's one of those kids who just gets tech, you know? It zipped and hovered, the little lights blinking. The other kids clapped. Then it veered suddenly. Higher. Caleb jerked the controller. It's not! Too late. It clipped something in midair. A bird. A small, brown sparrow. I saw it, just for a second, before it spiraled and slammed into the patio bricks. The scream that followed came from one of the girls. Caleb froze. My sister gasped. Someone started crying. I walked over to the bird. Neck twisted. Blood seeping onto the ground. The time was 2:03 p.m. I left early. Said I had a headache. That wasn't a lie. I turned off my phone that night. I couldn't bear to look at it. But when I turned it back on the next morning, there was already a new message waiting. Sunday's message was waiting for me when I woke up. No alarm. Just that same buzz, like it had wormed into my dreams and pulled me out by the spine. Glass breaks. Step back too late. Foot. 10:16 a.m. I checked the clock. 9:42 a.m. I was home, alone. I hadn't even gotten out of bed yet. For a moment, I stared at the phone like it was a rattlesnake. Then I got up and started scanning the apartment like a lunatic. Every glass surface, the kitchen, the windows, the coffee table, I checked them all. I unplugged the blender. Took the wine glasses out of the drying rack and placed them carefully in the cabinet. I didn't sit down. I didn't touch anything. At 10 o'clock, I was barefoot in the kitchen, watching the clock tick. At 10:12, I heard a faint creak. I stepped into the living room. Nothing. At 10:14, I exhaled. Maybe I'd beaten it. At 10:15, the neighbor's kid started bouncing a basketball upstairs. 1, 2, 3, thump, thump, thump. And then, crack. A picture frame from the hallway wall dropped like a stone. The hook must have worked loose over time. The glass shattered across the floor like tiny razors. I jumped back, instinct. But my heel caught the edge of a shoe I'd left out the night before. I stumbled. Flinched sideways. My foot came down directly onto a shard of glass. A white-hot spike of pain lanced up my leg. I screamed. Collapsed against the wall. The digital clock on the microwave, blinking calmly, read 10:16. I was sweating by the time I bandaged my foot. I used half a roll of gauze. It was just a cut. But it could have been worse. It would have been worse if I hadn't known. Right. That's when I realized something. I had tried to change it. I had done everything I could. And it still happened. The message hadn't warned me to help me. It had announced it. I stayed home from work on Monday. Told them I had food poisoning. They didn't ask questions, probably because I sounded like I hadn't slept in 3 days, which wasn't far off. Every time my phone buzzed, even just for a spam email or weather alert, I flinched. I kept it face down on the counter, but that didn't help. The sound was enough. That sound was a loaded gun now. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe someone had hacked my phone. Maybe this was some sick social experiment. But how would they know? I mean, down to the minute? Down to the second? My foot was still sore. I could barely put weight on it. Then at 3:37 p.m., the next message came. Maria. Her car. Not her fault. 4:05 p.m. Maria is my ex. We dated for 2 years. Ended it 6 months ago. Still on decent terms. I hadn't talked to her in a while. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my keys and limped to the car. Texted her while hobbling across the parking lot. Hey, random, but can you do me a favor and not drive anywhere today? She replied almost instantly. Hi. Already on the road. Why? I called her. She picked up. Maria, listen. I know this is going to sound crazy, but please pull over. Just for like 10 minutes. She laughed, confused. What are you talking about? I was speeding. Fast as I could, toward the intersection near her apartment. Please, I said, voice shaking. Just trust me. Something's going to happen with your car at 4:05. I don't know what, but... Wait, are you watching me? No. No! I'm not stalking you. I glanced at the dashboard clock. 4:03. I saw the intersection ahead. The red light. I floored it. Where are you? Maine and Fremont. Heading east. I turned right. That was 1 block from where I was. 4:04. Maria, stop the car! Please! There was silence on the other end. Then, you're scaring me, Eli. And then I heard it. Metal shrieking. A scream. The phone cut off. I turned the corner and saw the scene. A black SUV T-boned into a small silver sedan. Maria's sedan. She was alive. Conscious. Crying. They were pulling her from the wreckage when I got there. Airbags deployed. Bruised, maybe a broken arm. Nothing fatal. But she looked at me like I was a stranger. Like I had known. Because I had. The paramedics wouldn't let me ride with her. The cops took my statement. I didn't tell them about the message. Who would believe me? That night I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. I just sat in the dark, holding my phone. I knew more messages were coming. I couldn't stop them. And I couldn't stop what they warned me about either. I started dreaming in buzzes. I'd be walking somewhere, a sidewalk, a hallway, a field, and I'd hear that vibrating tone. Always behind me. Never loud, just enough to make me turn. And I'd wake up reaching for the phone, soaked in sweat, heart racing like a hunted animal. It was Tuesday when the next message came. 7:12 a.m. Buzz. Screen lit up. I didn't check it right away. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding the phone like it was a loaded gun, half expecting it to go off in my hand. Finally, I looked. Don't open the door. 7:28 a.m. That was it. No explanation. No consequence. Just that. I stared at it. Checked the time. 7:16. I lived alone. In a locked apartment. No visitors. No deliveries scheduled. No maintenance calls. But I still stood up and bolted the door. Double-checking everything. Then I pulled the blinds halfway down and waited in the hallway, just around the corner from the front door, phone in one hand, a flashlight in the other. Not a weapon, but it made me feel like I had something. 7:27. I held my breath. 7:28. Nothing. Then ding-dong. The doorbell rang once. Then again, more insistent. I moved to the peephole, heart pounding, and looked through. A man stood there. Maybe late 30s. Baseball cap. Gray hoodie. Holding a clipboard. I didn't recognize him. He waited. Knocked once. Then turned and walked away, not to the next door, not to the stairs. Just out of view. I waited another 5 minutes, then finally cracked the door and peeked outside. Nothing. No one. But wedged into the frame was a folded piece of paper. I unfolded it. There was only one word, written in big, blocky black letters. Good. I slammed the door shut so hard the hinges rattled. This wasn't just prediction anymore. This was contact. This thing, whoever or whatever it was, it knew I listened. And now it was testing what I'd do. After the door incident, I stopped going outside. I called out sick again. Stopped answering friends. My world shrank to the 4 walls of my apartment. And the phone, always the phone. I tried blocking the sender. Factory resetting. Even putting the SIM into an old flip phone. Didn't matter. The messages still came. Always from nowhere. Always right. But what happened Wednesday wasn't a message. It was a phone call. 3:17 p.m. The screen lit up with an unlisted number. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity, or fear, had its claws in me by now. I picked up. Hello? Silence. Then static. A deep, pulsing kind. Not like a poor signal, more like breathing, wet and electrical. No voice. Who is this? I whispered. No answer. Just more static. Then click. Call ended. 5 seconds later, a message arrived. Don't unplug the router. 3:29 p.m. What the hell? I turned and stared at the blinking router light across the room. I hadn't even thought about unplugging it. Not until now. So I waited. Sat on the couch. Stared at the clock. 3:29. The power flickered. Just for a second. The lights dimmed. Then came back. Everything fine. Except the router, it restarted. Blinked red. I walked over to it, unsure why I was even checking. My hand hovered above the power cord. A second message came in. I said don't. I jerked my hand back like it had been burned. I didn't unplug it. And a few moments later, the lights stabilized. The router went green again. But now I was shaking. It wasn't just predicting anymore. It was watching me. Thursday night, I slept on the floor. Not because I wanted to, because I didn't trust the bed. I couldn't explain it, but something about it felt exposed. Like I'd wake up in the dark and see a silhouette standing over me. Or worse, see nothing, and feel breath against my ear. My phone was still on, face down, next to me. I'd stopped turning it off. Part of me believed if I did, something worse would happen. It had trained me that way, condition by condition, like an invisible dog collar tightening each day. It buzzed at 2:46 a.m. I opened it with a dry mouth and trembling hands. Don't look out the window. 2:48 a.m. I didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Just lay there, staring at the time. 2:47. My apartment only has 2 windows, one in the living room facing the street, and one in the bedroom looking out over the alley. Both were shut. Blinds drawn. But the bedroom one always swayed a little in the breeze, and right now I could hear it creaking. Just a soft tap-tap against the pane. Nothing abnormal. But suddenly that tiny noise filled the whole apartment. 2:48. And then, the creaking stopped. Silence. A kind of perfect silence. Then I heard it. A sound I'll never forget. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the glass. I lay there, frozen. My skin cold and tight like it had been shrink-wrapped. The knocks didn't repeat. I didn't move. A full minute passed. 2. Then my phone buzzed again. Good. That was it. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I checked the window from inside. Nothing there. Not even a smudge. But that message haunted me more than the knocks. Good. It was rewarding me. Like I was playing a game. And worse, like I was winning. By Friday, I was done pretending this was temporary. I taped black construction paper over the windows. Turned off the TV. Covered the mirrors. I wanted no reflections, no shadows, no glimpses of things I wasn't ready to see. I ate cereal straight from the box. Barely drank water. Barely moved. I kept my phone charged at all times, plugged into the wall like it was on life support. I didn't trust myself to sleep, but I must have dozed off sometime that afternoon, because I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing. Again and again and again. 5 messages. All from the same blank sender. The first one was timestamped 4:11 p.m. It was now 4:38. I opened them in order, my mouth dry as sand. 4:11 p.m. Get up now. 4:12 p.m. Someone's in the hallway. 4:13 p.m. They're stopping outside your door. 4:14 p.m. Why didn't you get up? 4:15 p.m. Too late. I stood slowly. Every joint in my body stiff, like I'd been in a coma. I crept toward the door, heart pounding like a war drum. Nothing outside. Nothing under the door. No shadow. But taped to the inside of my door, the side facing me, was another piece of paper. Just like the one from before. This one read, "You missed it." I backed away, legs shaking, collapsed into the armchair, and stared at the phone. It knew I was asleep. It knew what I didn't do. It didn't just watch. It expected. I wasn't just receiving messages anymore. I was being tested. And I had just failed one. That night, I unplugged the router anyway. Not out of bravery. Out of desperation. I figured, if this thing was connected to the internet, maybe I could cut the cord, literally. I yanked the plug, then tossed the router in the sink and ran water over it. Fried it. Sparks hissed. I didn't care. For the first time in days, I felt something like power. It lasted 13 minutes. Then the phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look. I did anyway. "You were told not to," I whispered. "What do you want?" I said it out loud. Not to the room, to the phone. My own face reflected dimly in the black screen. It rang. No number. No ID. Just like before. I answered. This time there was no static. There was breathing. Wet, thick, close. Like it was just on the other side of the phone. Or just on the other side of the wall. Then it spoke. One word. Guttural. Glitchy. Like a voice run through broken speakers. "Obedience." The line cut. I stared at the phone, stunned, until it buzzed again. A message, just one word. Now. That was the moment something broke in me. Fear turned to something else. A tight knot of dread and rage. Not at whatever was doing this, at me, for letting it. I threw the phone across the room. It didn't break. It buzzed. The screen lit up in the dark, cracked but functioning. New message. "You think you're in control. Try to leave. I dare you." I stared at my front door. The lock. The hallway. I hadn't stepped outside in days. I reached for my keys. I didn't leave. Not that day. I stood at the door for maybe 10 minutes, keys in hand, listening. Breathing like a fugitive. Every instinct I had screamed not to open it. And then, of course, the message came. "Don't." That was all. Just 5 minutes after I'd even thought of leaving. I dropped the keys. This wasn't just prediction anymore. It was reaction. It was conversation. The next morning, I woke up to a string of new messages. This time, they weren't warnings. They were commands. 8:04 a.m. Turn on the kitchen light. 8:06 a.m. Pick up your phone. 8:07 a.m. Sit down. Right now. 8:08 a.m. Don't speak. I obeyed. Every single one. Because I was terrified of what would happen if I didn't. It escalated quickly. 9:12 a.m. Don't open the fridge. 9:21 a.m. Throw out the apples. 9:45 a.m. Delete your sister's number. 10:01 a.m. Now. I hesitated at that last one. That word had weight now. Now. It didn't mean soon. It didn't mean if you feel like it. It meant there will be consequences. So I deleted it. Her number. Our old text threads. Photos. All of it. She texted me 20 minutes later. "Hey! Just thinking of you. Everything okay?" I didn't respond. Because the phone buzzed again. Don't answer her. I knew better than to ask how it knew. My apartment felt smaller with each instruction. Like the walls were drawing in, rearranging to keep me inside the box it had built. And the messages started feeling colder. Less like warnings. More like conditioning. Like it wasn't just keeping me safe. It was training me. By the next day, it wasn't just telling me what to do. It was anticipating what I'd resist. 10:15 a.m. Don't call her. You're thinking about it. 10:16 a.m. Don't try to outsmart this. You will fail. 10:18 a.m. Stop looking at the door. I sat down on the floor in the hallway, trying not to think of anything at all. Which only made the thoughts louder. I tried breathing exercises, meditation apps, anything to drown it out. But it always buzzed again. Focus. Now. It didn't like when I drifted. It didn't like when I thought outside the lines. And then the voice came back. I was brushing my teeth when my phone lit up, no ring this time. It just started talking. Not a call. Just sound. I wiped my mouth and leaned in. The voice was my own. Only wrong. Slower. More deliberate. Like someone playing a recording of me through rotting tape. It said, "You will listen. You are already listening. You are exactly where you need to be." I dropped the phone. It kept playing. "This is your purpose. Receive. Obey. Prepare." Then silence. The screen went black. But not before flashing one last message, a whisper of text across the lock screen. "We are almost ready." We. There was more than one. Or there would be. I realized something, kneeling there in my dark kitchen. It wasn't just about watching me anymore. It was using me. Hollowing me out. Making space. For what? I didn't want to know. But the worst part. A part of me wanted to keep listening. I hit a breaking point. Not a dramatic one, not screaming or smashing the phone with a hammer. Just a quiet, sharp corner inside me that turned. Something gave way. Snapped in a silent room. I couldn't live like this anymore, waiting for every buzz like it was God's breath on my neck. So I did the unthinkable. I investigated. I started by tracking the messages. I downloaded every SMS trace app one could find. Checked cell tower logs, ran spoof detection, used an old laptop I hadn't touched in years to search message routing patterns. All of it led nowhere. The messages didn't come from anywhere. No tower, no IP, no return path. Like they just appeared. But the phone had to be the link, right? So I took it to a tech repair shop across town. Gutted my fear, shoved it deep, and walked out into daylight for the first time in days. I didn't tell them everything, just said it was acting weird. Notifications showing up from strange apps, battery draining too fast. A guy named Reggie at the counter said he'd take a look. He was young, polite, not too curious. Said it'd take an hour? I walked around the block. Every step felt like I was peeling skin off. I kept expecting to see a message on a stranger's phone. Or hear my own voice echoing from an alley. I came back early. Reggie was pale. Real pale. He held the phone between two fingers like it was covered in grease. "There's something wrong with this," he said. "It's not jailbroken, it's not rooted, but it's like it's running two operating systems. One stacked on top of the other." I blinked. "What?" He turned the screen to show me. I pulled a diagnostic. Every time the screen turns on, it opens a process that doesn't exist in the file structure. It's invisible. It shouldn't even boot. But it's there. He swallowed. And it keeps pinging something. Every 4 seconds. Some kind of feedback loop. Where's it sending the data? He shook his head. That's the thing. It's not sending out. It's pulling in. I asked if he could delete it. He started to answer, then froze. His eyes locked on the phone screen. A new message had just appeared. It said, "Leave it. Now." Reggie looked at me. "What the F?" The lights in the shop flickered. Not just flickered. Dimmed, like a pulse moving through the wiring. I grabbed the phone and left. Didn't pay. Didn't speak. I just ran. When I got home, there was another message waiting. "You're not supposed to look." And then, "This is your last warning." I didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear, I just couldn't. My body wouldn't allow it. Every blink felt like my brain was being scanned. Every breath like it was being counted. I kept hearing phantom buzzes, like the messages were coming even when the phone stayed still. Around 3 a.m., the messages started again. Only now, they weren't just observing. They were controlling. 3:01 a.m. Turn off the lights. 3:03 a.m. Put the phone in your left hand. 3:04 a.m. Stand up. Now. 3:05 a.m. Walk to the mirror. I didn't have a mirror. I'd taken them all down. But I had one left, the tiny one in the bathroom medicine cabinet. I'd taped paper over it. But still, it counted. I walked in, hand shaking, and peeled the tape back. Another message buzzed. Look! I stared into the mirror. At first, I just saw me, haggard, stubbled, eyes sunk deep from days without sleep. Then I saw something shift behind my eyes. It was quick. A flicker. Like a wrong frame in a film reel. But it was there. And it wasn't me. The phone buzzed again. We're almost ready. Then another, immediately after. Don't tell her. I stared at that line for a long time. And then, like a punch to the gut, it hit me, my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in days. Not since I deleted her contact. But it knew I was about to reach out. That I was on the edge of telling someone, anyone, what was happening. It got there first. I did it anyway. I re-downloaded our chat history from the cloud backup. Type. Something's wrong. It's the phone. It's controlling things. I need help. I hit send. The message vanished. Not failed. Not delivered. Just disappeared. I tried again. The keyboard froze. Then the app crashed. Then the whole screen went black. New message. You were warned. I dropped the phone. It didn't buzz again. Not for an hour. And when it did, it came with something new. Not a message. A contact request. From my own number. The contact request blinked at the top of the screen. Unknown number is trying to reach you. But I knew the number. It was mine. Not similar. Not close. Exactly mine, area code, digits, everything. A perfect reflection. I accepted. Immediately, the screen glitched. The colors inverted, then reset. Like the phone was rebooting from the inside out. And then it opened to a single chat window. No keyboard. No call button. Just the blinking cursor. A message came through. Finally. Then. We needed you to trust it first. Another. Now we can begin. I typed, or tried to. But my fingers wouldn't move. The screen responded anyway. Words appeared like I was typing them, letter by letter, even though I wasn't. What are you? It answered immediately. You. Later. I stared at it, heart trying to claw out of my chest. This isn't possible. It is. If you know what to say. And when. Why me? There was a long pause. Then the final string of messages came, one after another. Because you always looked at your phone. Because you believed the warnings. Because you followed the rules. Because you obeyed. Then a final line, slower than the others. Because that's what I did. I dropped the phone. Again. I should have smashed it. Should have burned it. But I didn't. I stood there, watching the screen go dark, and then light up again. A new message. Your turn. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at that screen. Hours maybe. Until the world outside dimmed. Until the battery finally died and left the room in silence. But the worst part. I keep hearing it. That buzz. In my head. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I know I'm the one sending the next message.